When I was 13, I wanted nothing more than to be a game developer. I wanted to make games forever. And yet, here I am, 29, approaching 30 in June, doing nothing with my life. What else is new? You dream, you will fail. You want, you will suffer. Speaking of suffering, you ever use those easy to make game making tools back in the day? Yeah, sure, these days you have Unity and Unreal Engine, but back then, we basically only had RPG Maker for the PS1, RPG Maker 2 for the PS2, RPG Maker 3 for the PS2, and RPG Maker XP for PC. So when I saw a game making tool in the Scholastics book ad back in middle school, I just had to get it and see for myself just what I could possibly make with it. The cover art was so awesome, showing a dinosaur with guns on its head, shooting at people in sports cars. My mind was racing, wondering what I could possibly make with this thing. So when I got it from school, I was hyped beyond belief to get home and make games. Oh boy, I'm going to make a game where you're a T-Rex shooting lasers at people in a city with UFOs and explosions, and then you race the T-Rex on giant Hot Wheels tracks. And then... Oh my fucking god, what did I get myself into? Yep, childhood drama, trauma 101, right here. I was flabbergasted at just how shit this game making tool was. It looked awful, controlled awful, sounded awful, and ran like a snail on my PC. Which could run things like Gary's Mod, Age of Empires 2, Counter-Strike Source, Half-Life 2, you name it. I was so mad, so upset, but I endured. I tried forever to make things work and had my little sister be my game tester. She hated everything I made. I was so torn. This engine was just impossible to work with. Hell, it's worse than FPS Creator, for those of you old enough to remember that one. So what can you even make in this tool? Well, you can make a crappy Space Invaders clone, you can make a Need for Speed clone that controls like the whole world is covered in silicone lube. You can make a paintball game worse than Extreme Paint Brawl. Yes, I said something is worse than Extreme Paint Brawl. That's how awful this engine runs and controls. Nothing works at all. Part of the problem is the controls. Now imagine, how do you think a car would control? WASD with the spacebar? Nope. Arrow keys? No. You use the mouse to steer left and right, as shown on screen, with the arrow showing how hard you're steering towards a certain direction. You then use the mouse left button to accelerate, the right mouse button for brakes and reverse. Now how do you think the third-person shooter part works? You use the left mouse button to jump, you move the mouse around the circle to move in any direction, and the spacebar to shoot. But the paintball gun doesn't hit anything, it's random, and everything just flies in all directions. None of the templates are usable, and making things from scratch is worse, as the controls don't work well. Not to mention the UI is atrocious. This is coming from someone who grew up under AOL and Windows 98 and dial-up internet browsing. We knew what awful UI was back then, back in the 90s. The concepts of what you can make are limited, as there's only a small selection of player model options. This determines the type of game you can make: a tank battle game, a paintball game, a racing game, or a turret game. That's it, and it's all god awful. The AI can't even race. Imagine the world's worst Mario Kart clone or Need for Speed clone. That's all you can make. At the end of the day, I regretted getting this game from myabandonware.com. As soon as I booted up, I got reminded of the trauma of my teenage years. Now I remember why I only ever used RPG Maker XP and FPS Creator, cause at least they worked. This thing is a scam, and I had to run several antivirus programs to make sure my computer was clean afterwards, cause something just tells me this game installs bad things onto your computer. Just no. I do not recommend this abomination. It is single-handedly the worst game-making software ever imagined. And if you can think of something worse, please don't. The world is suffering enough these days.